Hello, everybody. This is Julio Dallacosta with another installment of Accounting Advisory Hot Tips. Today, we're going to talk about ASC 842, the new leasing standard that is now required for public companies and for private companies in the United States has been delayed 1 year till next year. But most of the companies have already started the journey of the adoption of 842. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting topic which has gained a lot of attention in the accounting and finance world with the adoption of ASC 842, and that is embedded leases. So today, we're going to break down what is an embedded lease, and if you do have embedded leases, here are 3 questions that you will have to answer. It's very important to understand what an embedded lease is because your auditors are going to be reviewing your contracts. And it's very typical to have embedded leases within a logistics or computer services contract. So these things are required reading when it comes to the search for embedded leases. So what is an embedded lease? Well, under 842, it's an arrangement is a lease or it contains a lease if an underlying asset is explicitly or implicitly identified and use of the asset is controlled by the customer. Usually, embedded leases are components within contracts that entail the use of a particular asset, where the user, it's very important, the user has control over that asset. So let's take an example. Let's say you have a warehouse and you actually hire a company to take care of your logistics for you. Within that logistics contract, that company may actually use a forklift and they may go out and get a forklift to use as part of the logistics contract. It is the analysis of that forklift that is the heart of what an embedded lease is. Let's look a little bit further. So let's talk about the 3 questions that are very important. The 3 questions are, does the agreement entail the use of one or more specific assets? In our example I just talked about, we have a forklift in the logistics agreement. So number 1 answer is, that answer is yes. So the asset is specified, and for that answer, it means that there is a potential embedded lease. However, if an asset is explicitly or implicitly identified with an agreement, then a lease may exist. Note the word may. The second one is, does the supplier have the practical ability to substitute a different asset? So in our example with the forklift, if the provider can come to your warehouse and swap out a better forklift or a cheaper forklift, that's a question. And the answer depends on whether you have an embedded lease or not. So if your agreement does specify the use of an asset, can the supplier easily substitute a different asset? And would the supplier benefit economically by doing so? So let's say the supplier is paying $200 a month for that forklift. If they get a better deal and they're paying and they can swap that asset out and pay $50 a month, then the supplier may have the ability to substitute a different asset. The last one is probably the most important, which is, do you as the lessee have control over the asset? Now, if the answer is yes, then you may have an embedded lease. So what does control mean? Physical control. So going back to my example of the forklift, if I can tell the warehouse provider, even though I have a logistics contract, where, who, what, and when it goes to, where that forklift goes to, then you may have a lease. So if I can direct how that forklift is used within the logistics agreement, then I probably have an embedded lease. So again, just to recap, you have to look at 3 things. Is there a specific asset identified within your contract? A specific asset might be a VIN number for a piece of equipment. Secondly, does the supplier have the ability to swap it out If he finds a cheaper piece of equipment to put in your agreement, then the answer is yes. And lastly, if you have control over that asset, very important, if the answer is yes, then you may be able to have an embedded lease. I hope that was helpful for you. And if there are any questions, feel free to contact us at bramsol.com. Thank you.